Can you still hear the distant crackle and hum as you tuned in, the DJ's warm voice spilling into your bedroom late at night? For millions of Americans, the soundtrack of the 1960s was more than just music. It was the pulse of a generation, delivered through a box no bigger than a lunch pail and carried everywhere from Chevy dashboards to kitchen counters. The sweet static before a favorite Beatles song, the rush of commercials hawking cola or cars, and the sensation of cool plastic dials beneath your fingertips all became part of daily life. 60s radio was rebellion, comfort, discovery, a lifeline connecting teenagers dreaming of change, parents winding down after work, and anyone searching for a slice of the bigger world outside their window. Who else remembers the anticipation as a song faded and a DJ's voice promised something new, electric, and unforgettable? Every broadcast framed the hopes and history of its time, from civil rights to summer road trips. So, what secrets and stories are tucked between those old radio waves? Get ready to relive the magic as we tune back into an era when the airwaves truly shaped our lives. As the 1950s gave way to a new decade, radio was already woven deep into the American fabric, yet the 1960s would elevate it from a familiar household presence to the very heartbeat of cultural revolution. In living rooms, bedrooms, and parked cars scattered across suburbia and city alike, families clustered around sets that ranged from heavy wooden consoles to compact, portable transistors. The remarkable thing about those early 60s radios was where they met us, on breakfast tables, in cracked leather car dashboards, even tucked beneath teenage pillows on school nights. You probably still remember the satisfying click as you powered up your set, or the sensation of slowly rotating the tuning knob, hunting for that one elusive station amidst the fuzzy signals. But why did 60s radio matter so much? For one, it was everywhere. By 1960, more than 90% of American households owned at least one radio, making it second only to the television in cultural importance. The presence of the affordable, pocket-sized transistor radio, introduced just a few years prior in the late 1950s, was now unmistakable. Suddenly, music and news were portable. You could slip them into a jacket, carry them to the park, or sneak them into school. Compare that with the bulky tabletop sets of the previous generation, and you instantly appreciate how revolutionary this change was. Transistor radios transformed American life in a way that's hard to overstate. The entire world was, quite literally, now in your hands. At a time before tapes and well before digital music, families and teenagers had only one real option for hearing the newest tunes: the radio. Did you ever linger by your favorite station, finger poised above the record button, hoping to capture the latest hit onto a reel-to-reel or primitive cassette? DJs became local celebrities, their voices as familiar as family. More than just music curators, they were storytellers, news anchors, and cultural commentators rolled into one, and each region had its icons: Cousin Brucey on WABC in New York, Art LeBeau on KRLA in Los Angeles, Dick Biondi in Chicago. But the early 60s airwaves were about more than just rock and roll. During breakfast, grown-ups listened raptly to the news, the exploits of the Mercury astronauts, tense bulletins about the Cuban Missile Crisis, and updates on Kennedy's New Frontier. When the sun set, sports fans tuned in for blow-by-blow boxing matches or ball games called by legendary voices like Vin Scully or Mel Allen, and on Sundays, static-laden sermons from distant megachurches reached hopeful listeners miles away. Did your family gather for any of these rituals, or was there a special program everyone hushed to listen to? What's remarkable is how radio shaped not just routine, but aspiration and adventure. Imagine a teenager in a quiet rural town, one foot dangling out her open window as she tuned in to a faraway rock station, catching regional hits from cities she'd only read about. This power, the ability to connect disparate lives and dreams, was radio's secret ingredient in the early 1960s. For many, the arrival of the high-fidelity FM band in homes and cars was a game-changer. Did you know that FM, first invented before World War II, didn't really catch on until the 60s? AM radio still ruled with its punchy, limited-range sound, but FM, with its clearer, static-free signal, was quietly staging a takeover. It was late-night FM in particular that opened up whole new vistas, longer songs, fewer commercials, and underground programming that felt almost conspiratorial. Radio also acted as an invisible strand threading together the great events of the era. In 1963, Americans mourned together as news of President Kennedy's assassination spread not via television, but through hurried radio broadcasts. During the summer of 1964, thousands listened anxiously for updates about the civil rights movement. Even NASA's Mercury and Apollo missions, unimaginable drama unfolding hundreds of miles above the Earth, became shared experiences as families sat clustered around radios, clutching muggy cups of coffee and holding their breath for the latest report. One surprising fact you might not know is that throughout much of the 60s, radio stations often operated as independent fiefdoms, each fiercely guarding its unique sound and catering to the whims of local taste. Some would even lock in a song's popularity by playing it on an endless loop if it hit big in their city, pushing regional hits onto the national charts. There are stories of DJs physically breaking records they didn't like live on air, a stunt as much about power as personality. Did you ever notice how the same song might be wildly popular in your town, but barely make a ripple a few states away? Meanwhile, the reach of American radio extended far beyond US borders. The powerful signals of border blaster stations, like the infamous Wolfman Jack's X-Earth blasting into the night from just over the Mexican line, could be picked up hundreds of miles away, leading to a unique blend of American and Latin influences in the music and the advertisements. Have you ever caught a weather report or commercial in a language you didn't speak, woven into your nightly radio routine? For all its growing reach, radio in the early 60s still had a homespun quality. Many stations, especially in rural areas, were operated by small-town staff who wore multiple hats. The same person might sweep the studio floor, read the morning obituaries, cue up the next track, and then run out to fix the transmission tower. This hands-on style gave each local station its own texture, warmth, and quirks. Maybe you can still recall your town's station jingle or a favorite sign-off phrase. If you ever called in to request a song and heard your name on air, you know the thrill of being part of this communal creation. There was an art, almost a ritual, to dialing in your favorite station, especially after dark, when signals from distant cities would bounce off the ionosphere and reach new corners of the country. Some nights, listeners in Detroit could catch a bit of Nashville, or folks in Nebraska could hear the latest weather update out of Denver. That mysterious, warbling quality to the signal, sometimes clear as bell, sometimes faded, became part of the magic. But the technological and cultural evolution of radio in the 1960s was just beginning. As the decade progressed, the boundaries between musical genres would blur, the sound of the DJ would take on new importance, and the entire experience of listening would become even more intimate and electrifying. Just as the transistor made tunes portable, upcoming innovations would make radio central to the youth explosion and the hopes and dreams of a turbulent era. So what happened when radio moved from the family living room to the hands and hearts of teenagers everywhere? Stay with me as we dial into the next chapter. The technological leaps and unforgettable sounds that brought the world together, beat by beat. As we finish turning the dial back through time, it's plain to see that 60s radio was so much more than just a way to pass the hours. It was the pulse and personality of a generation finding its voice. We've revisited that remarkable era when radio offered both comfort and discovery, threading together early morning news shows, thrilling play-by-play sports, late-night dedications, and the rising stars of rock and roll and Motown. It was the era when transistor radios made music and companionship portable, letting us tuck songs and stories into our back pockets or cradle them in our hands as we drifted off to sleep. We remembered how DJs became our friends in faraway studios, guiding us through changing times with warmth, wit, and a familiar tone that cut through even the thickest static. Radio was there during life's milestones, school dances, late-night drives, and quiet moments after dinner. And it was a companion during both mundane routines and moments of national drama, from the space race to the struggles for civil rights. Beyond just delivering songs and news, the 60s radio was a stage that reflected, and sometimes inspired, the moods, dreams, and anxieties of an entire country. On those airwaves, boundaries faded. A hit tune could unite teenagers across state lines. A heartfelt broadcast could bring distant voices into our homes, and a well-placed jingle or commercial could instantly evoke the colors and flavors of the age. Even now, the faint memory of a certain song, a DJ's catchphrase, or the signature crackle of an old receiver can transport us back, stirring a sense of who we were and how we grew together. The influence of 60s radio lingers even as technology changes, reminding us that the power of a shared story or a perfect melody remains timeless. What memories does the sound of 60s radio awaken for you? Do you recall a song that brought you joy on a tough day, a program your whole family enjoyed together, or a DJ who seemed to speak directly to your heart? I'd love for you to share your favorite 60s radio memories in the comments. Let's keep these stories alive for generations to come. If you enjoyed this nostalgic journey, please like this video and subscribe for more trips down memory lane. Don't hesitate to pass it along to friends or family who might feel that familiar twinge of nostalgia too. And be sure to stay tuned. We'll be revisiting more beloved sounds and memories from the past in upcoming episode. After all, whether we were huddled around a console in the living room or listening by moonlight on a transistor radio tucked under our pillow, those airwaves carried more than music. They carried our hopes, our laughter, and the rhythm of a world reinventing itself with every broadcast. So here's to the unforgettable sound of 60s radio. May it never fade from our hearts or our memories, no matter how many years have gone by.